If the measures of two sides of a triangle and the angle between the two sides are all known, right? Side, angle, side. Then the third side can be determined by using the cosine law, which is c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. Okay? Now, how will I label that? I want my angle that I know, because I got to put in the cosine of angle C. That's got to be angle C. That makes this side little c. And which of these is A and B doesn't matter. Okay? So we can just arbitrarily choose. This will be A, this will be B. That makes this little a and this little b. So to use the cosine law, it's just a formula. We're substituting into the formula. We're working it out, right? Remember the secret to math? Which is what? Formula, substitution, answer. Okay? That's the secret to math, right? Okay, it makes it sound a lot easier than it is. You do have to do some practice, right? Because you need to know what goes into the formula. So in here, what goes into the formula? Well, okay, so we are going to work out the third side of this triangle, right? This length. Yeah. Why might you want to know that? You know, you could be doing surveying or landscaping or something like that, and you can measure two sides and this angle, but you can't measure this side. It's across a river or something, right? But you can make some measurements, okay? Or you've just drawn this triangle and you need to know what's the length of the third side, okay? So, c squared, that's what we want to find. Actually, here's what we're going to do. You know what? I want c. So I'm going to take the square root of this, and now I'm going to substitute in, right? 13 squared plus 24 squared minus 2 times 13 times 24 times the cos of 45 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to pause this for. Okay, so I want to go directly to side C. So it's second function square root, right? I need the square root. If you ever get a number that's way too big, you're using the cosine law, and you say, hey, I got a side of 13, a side of 24, and a side of 87 or something, and you go, wait a sec, that's too big, right? If I take 13 and 24 and lay them out in a straight line, it'll only be 37 long. So that means my third side has to be smaller than 37, right? So square root 13 squared, 13 squared. Follow along on your own calculator. Plus 24 squared. Oh, make sure you're in degree mode too. Okay, 13 squared plus 24 squared. Okay, arrow out. Minus 2 times 13 times 24 times the cos of 45. Close that off. Hit enter. Boom, there's your answer, right? 17.4. Well, okay, so let's round to the nearest tenth. All right, let's round to the nearest hundredth. 17.43 centimeters. Okay? So that's it, right? Easy. You got two sides and they include it. So, I mean, today and today's homework will be kind of the easy stuff because it's all going to be cosine law, right? Then next week we learn sine law, and then when you do for real problems, it's sort of like, do I use the cosine law or do I use the sine law? Okay? And there's a place where you use. So if you have side, angle, side, okay, or the way we say that is two sides and the included angle, right? Two sides and the angle between them, side, angle, side, that's cosine law. Okay? All right, let's do some more. In general, if the measure of all three sides of a triangle are known, then any of the angles can be determined using the rearranged formula of the cosine law. This is the cosine law solving for an angle. So if you know side, 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 then you use the cosine law, you can solve for any angle, right? And so we'll just solve, let's say we solve for this. We'll call this C, we'll call this A, we'll call this B. This will be little c, this will be little a, this will be little b. Okay? Now if you're given a specific problem where you have to figure out an angle, just make sure that you call that angle angle C, so that when you do the when you set up the cosine law, you're solving for the angle that you don't know. Make sure you have your calculators up, because you have to try one of these on your calculator. Okay, now's a good time to do it wrong, so you can look at it and go, but that's wrong. And then we figure out how do we do this right. All right, here's how it's going to work. I want to find angle C. So angle C is the inverse cosine of, right? How do you solve for an angle? You do inverse cos. We're solving for that side, right? C squared equals, we square root both sides. So we write C equals the square root of, and then the formula. Here, we go C equals the inverse cos of, and then this formula. So A, that's 9.8. I ran out of ink. So A is 9.8. B is 10.3 plus 10.3 squared. Minus C is 6.2 squared. Whoops. Divided by 2 times A times B. Now, if I didn't do cos inverse, just like if I didn't do C squared, so in that last one, if I didn't do the square root, we would have ended up with C squared, and it would have been like 300. And you would have said, wait a second, that's too long. I can't have a side of 14 and a side of 24 and get a side that's 300. Again, because if I lay those out flat, okay, at which point you got to realize, oh, wait, I forgot to do the square root. And then you do the square root of the number. In this one, if you end up with the cosine of C, it's going to be a number between -1 and +1. That's how cosines work. And you're going to look at that and say, whatever that angle is, it is not negative and it's not less than 1 degree. Okay? At which point you say, oh wait, I've got the cosine, and you have to do the inverse cos. Now, I just like to cut to the chase and do the inverse cos. Okay, do this, because you're going to get it wrong. And I need you to get it wrong so that I can show you how to get it right, and you say, okay. What'd you get for an answer?
35.8230.
That's actually right. Okay, some of you will get it wrong, and that's okay. This is the time to make the mistake, and then we'll fix it. And some of you will get it right, and that's good. Just keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing it right. Okay, so turn on the calculator. I want inverse. Make sure it's in degree mode, right? That's important. I want the inverse cos. Okay, I got a set of brackets. Now here's the deal. What does this big bar here mean? It means divide, right? But there's a special other meaning which says you need to work out the top, then work out the bottom, and then do the division. So we need to put brackets, so it's cos inverse brackets, and I got to do the top. So 9.8 squared plus 10.3 squared minus 6.2 squared, close the bracket, right? So I said do the cos inverse, and I've given you this expression which I put in brackets. Then you say divided by, and we put the bottom in brackets, right? So now we go divided by 2 times 9.8 times 10.3, close the bracket, whoops, hang on, missed a times there, times 10.3, close the bracket, close the big bracket, right? So what we now have is cos inverse. We've got this in brackets, and we've got this in brackets, right, with the division in between them. And then we hit enter, and we get 35.8 degrees. Okay? Now, you should know if you've made a mistake, because you're just going to get a ridiculous number. Right? You got to look at that and say, wait a second, that number makes no sense. That can't be like 0.8 degrees, right? And here's what will happen. Your number will say like 0.82, and you'll just say, oh, well, it must be 82 degrees, right? Like, what else can I do? It can't be 0.82, or it's 8.2. So if you get a number, so here's what happens. Let's say I don't do the cos inverse. I just do cos C. So I work this out as 9.8 squared plus 10.3 squared minus 6.2 squared divided by bracket 2 times 9.8 times. Okay, I got like 1.001, right? Okay, wait, that's wrong. So I had some number here wrong. 2 times 9.8 times 10.3. So I know I have a wrong number in there because I left out the 6. Okay, so I hit enter. I got 0.81. You got to look at that and say, that is not 0.81 degrees, right? 0.81 degrees would be like, yeah, they're flat. I can't even see anything. So if that happens, you go second cos inverse second answer. Because what you worked out was the inverse cos, or you worked out the cosine, you need to do the inverse cos to get the angle. Okay, so angle C is equal to 35.8 degrees. Okay, now I can use the cosine law again and again to get angle A and angle B. We don't really need to do that, right? Okay, so we can get the other two angles. We would just use the cosine law again. And you can do that a couple of different ways, right? You could rewrite this formula and say, I want to solve for A. So instead of A, you notice how the C here matches the C here? So you would go minus A squared. So it would be B squared plus C squared minus A squared, right? These two guys have to match. Over, and these two guys go down here, so it would be 2BC. Okay, so I can rearrange the formula. Easiest way to do it really would be just to go back to here and just erase everything and say, okay, we got this angle is 35.8. Now this is C, so this is little c, and this is A, and this is B, and here's little a and little b, and then just reuse the formula, right? So just rewrite it so it matches the formula, so you're not sitting there transposing all the stuff around, right? It's easier just to relabel it. We give you a triangle labeled PQR. The formula says cos C. Just cross out PQR, write in ABC. Put the C on the angle you want to find. Okay? So I could work out the other two angles, but, you know, it's just going to be a repetition.
How do you know which is the angle you want to find?
They'll tell you. Okay? So in this one it says solve. What does it mean to solve a triangle?
To find all of them.
To find everything, right? How many measures in a triangle? 6, right? There's 3 angles and there's 3 sides. Okay. So we'll do one of these, solve the following triangle. So we'll do one where we solve everything, right? And then we won't, right? I mean, we can do a million examples of this, but really. So what do we have? We have 2 sides and the included angle. Okay, so we're going to call this C. We're going to arbitrarily call these A and B. That's little c. This becomes little a. This becomes little b. Okay. Now it only matters which one is C because that's how the formula is written. Okay, so on your formula sheet, Math 29-2 formula sheet, right? It says C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cos C, and cos C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared over 2AB. So what that basically says is, the thing you want to find, put that as either side C or angle C. In this case, side C. So we're going to work out. So the formula, okay, you're just going to copy that off your formula sheet. This is not hard. You shouldn't make a mistake on this. It's just straight. Can I copy this off the formula sheet? Okay, and then you can say, all right, so C is going to be the square root of, and now I'm going to put in the numbers. So A is 22.4, and B is 17.3. And you should be doing this calculation yourself on your calculator, right? Because if you're going to mess up, do it now. Times the cosine of 105 degrees. Okay, so punch that in your calculator. Okay, because you want to make mistakes now. You want to say, okay, what did I do wrong? And, you know, you look back and you're going to say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? How do you do your homework, right? You do a question, then you check the answer. It's called fix-it, focused practice. Don't do all 7 of the questions from yesterday's stuff and then look at the answers. Wow, I got them all wrong. Okay, do a question, look at the answer. If the answer's right, good. If the answer's wrong, then go into Schoology and say, all right, what did I do wrong here, right? Compare your answer with the detail. Okay, so you know what, this time I'm not going to do the square root. I'm just going to go 22.4 squared plus 17.3 squared minus 2 times 22.4 times 17.3 times the cos of 105. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. 1001. Okay. Wow, does it make sense that if this side is 17 and this is 22, that this is 1001? No, that's way too big, right? If I flattened this out, it would still only be less than 40, be 39.7. So it can't be 1001.
It's 31.6.
Right. So what do? We go, oh, wait, I forgot to take the square root. So second root, second answer, 31.65, whatever, right? Okay, so if the answer is rounded to the nearest tenth, see, if I want to use this number later on, I'm going to keep it in the calculator, right, if I need to use. And actually, if I want to use the cosine law to get the other angle, I'm going to need to use this number. Okay, so I'm going to show you how do we do this in the calculator, how do I use that number. So for now, we'll just say C is equal to 31.6 meters. Now we need to work out angle A and angle B. Okay. So we use the cosine law again to work out one of those two angles, and then we know that all two angles add to 180. So once we have two angles, we just get the third angle by going 180 minus, and we take the sum, right? And the idea is solve the triangle. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to say, okay, this one is 31.648 ... I'm going to call this angle C, so we'll go A, B, C. I'm going to use the 3 sides to solve for this angle. Okay, so I'm going to use cosine law. Now, once we learn sine law, we won't bother. We'll just use the sine law. Okay, but for now, we need practice with cosine law, so we're using cosine. Okay, so we got a formula, right? The cosine of C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared over 2AB. And all that's just a rearrangement of the formula, right? You don't have to worry about it because it's on the formula sheet for you. You don't have to say, oh, I got to take this formula and rearrange it. Okay, we're not using the 105 now, right? I mean, that's not part of our calculation. We're just pretending, okay, I've got 3 sides. Okay, so angle C is the inverse cos of, now here's the problem, right? This side here, little b, I got to use it twice. Okay, right now it's sitting in our calculator, so I'm going to show you how to store it into b so that we can just call it b when we want to use it. So it's the cos inverse of a squared, so a is 20, so it's 22.4 squared plus b, that's the 31.648 ... right, squared, minus c minus 17.3 squared, divided by 2 times 22.4 times the 31.648 ... right? So we can't round that. You can't just use 31.6. If you do, your answer will be off. Okay. Now, if you have a TI-84, you can actually just go back and grab that number each time you need to use it. You can just arrow up and then hit enter and it'll pull it down. But otherwise, okay, so we're going to store it. So you go STO, store, and let's put it into B, because we're using it as a B, but it'll be uppercase. So to get the B, you hit the green alpha key and then the apps key, right? You see the little B there? So when you hit the green alpha key, then it uses the green, okay, which is B. So I said, put that number into B. All right, now we're going to go down here. So I want the angle. So it's cos inverse. Now remember, I need to put brackets around the top, right? This has to be worked out, and this has to be worked out. So I'm going to do bracket, all of this, bracket, divided by bracket, all of this, bracket, bracket. and we'll be good. Okay, so I got the bracket down, so it's 22.4 squared plus b squared, right? So I would say alpha b, so I say bring in the value that's stored in b, minus 17.3 squared, close the bracket, divided by, open the bracket, 2 times 22.4 times, I need b again, close bracket, close bracket. Okay, so I've already put cos inverse. If I didn't put cos inverse, I can get a number like between 0 and 1. Okay, and I'll say, wait, that's too small. So then we hit enter, and we get 31.87 degrees. So this angle is 31.87 degrees. And this angle,
So, what's your number?
yeah,
I didn't push out like the 31.64 and 31.8. I just did 31.6 and I got 31.96. Would that be wrong?
yeah, good.
Duh.
Okay, if it's numeric response to the nearest 10th, you're going to write 32.0. Everybody else is going to write 31.9. 32.0 will be marked wrong. 31.9 will be marked correct. If you round an intermediate value, you are likely going to get that. Now, you might fluke out, you might be okay, right? Like you weren't off by much, you're off by 0.1. But if you round intermediate values, you're probably going to get the questions wrong, right? Like you're going to be very close. If it's numeric, if it's multiple choice, you're going to be okay, right? Because the numbers will be far enough apart that you're going to look and say, well, they got 31.9, I got 32.0, but the other answers are like 33 and 34 and 35. So probably this one. Okay? So, don't run. I showed you how to store. You were asking, how do you store a number? I showed you.
I know.
Okay, so use it. Okay? So, I want the other end, it's going to be 180 minus the sum of, so I'm going to go bracket, this number, second answer, plus the 105. Okay, so it's 180 minus the sum of the other two angles. One of those angles is sitting here, right? Hit enter and round, so it's 43.13 degrees. 43.13 degrees. 43.13 degrees. Okay, if they wanted to round it to nearest 10th, this would be 31.9 and this would be 43.1. If they wanted to round it to the nearest whole degree, this would be 32 and this would be 43. Okay, so nearest whole degree, you'd be lucky. It wouldn't matter if you rounded, because you get the right answer, right? Because it's not, using a rounded value isn't going to throw you off by that much, but it will definitely throw you off by a 10. Okay, so you could actually, if the number you got was 31.49 and the number was 31.51, you'll say 31.4. Other people say 31.5. You'll get it wrong. Okay. So that's a solved triangle, right? We used the cosine law to work out the side. We then used the cosine law to get one of the angles, and we used the fact that the three angles in a triangle add up to 180 to get the next angle. Okay, so we are not going to solve this triangle. We're just going to get one of the angles. Let's go for the big angle here. So here's the biggest angle, right? It's opposite the largest side. Where's the smallest angle? Down here or up here?
Up there.
Up here, right? Because this angle is opposite this side, right? Opposite means it's not joined to, right? Adjacent means it's part of. Now, we can't really use opposite and adjacent here because this angle, this is adjacent and so is this. There is no hypotenuse, right? So all we can really say is opposite. We can't use the word adjacent. That's opposite that angle. This side is opposite this angle. This side is opposite the largest angle. Okay? You cannot use the word adjacent because there are two sides that are adjacent to every angle. Just in a right triangle, there's two sides adjacent to every angle. One of them is the hypotenuse. So we don't call it adjacent, right? We call it hypotenuse. Okay, so we're going to work out this angle, so we'll call that C, we'll call this A, we'll call this B. This is opposite angle B, this is opposite angle C, and this is opposite angle A. So now everything's named, right? We got A, we got B, we got C. We're only going to solve once, right? So we got a formula. It says the cosine of angle C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared over 2AB. When I solve these, I like to get my answer right away. So I say that C is equal to the inverse cosine, and then I fill that in. Now I'm going to let you do that. I'm just going to... Oh, all right, well, let me explain this while you're solving this. Maybe I need to go back a page and explain this then, because that didn't go. Okay, so here's the solution to that one, folks. Good, good enough. You know, you need to hit pause and look at that. And here's the next problem. So, you know, we're setting it up, and now we'll pause while you solve it. Okay, and then having solved this, we get 94.9 degrees, or maybe 95 degrees, depending on what they say to round to. Okay? So always, always, always read the question, and especially in a written response, determine how many decimals do I need to show. And if it doesn't say, then come ask. Right? You just say, hey, it didn't say here, like how many decimals, and I will tell you. The pendulum that is 20 centimeters long, the pendulum, a pendulum, swings back and forth. It travels 15 centimeters to the right and to the left. Okay, so here's a pendulum which is 20 centimeters long, and it travels 15 centimeters to the right and left of its equilibrium position. So it kind of swings to there and to there, right? Okay, so as this swings, it ends up there and up there, right? And we know that it's 20 centimeters long, so we know that this length here will be 20, and this length here will be 20. And we're supposed to work out this angle. So we got a slight problem, right? Which is, oh wait, and we know that it goes 15 either side, so that's 15. And this is 15. So this side is 30. Okay, so we can solve this now, right? So we call this C, we call this A, we call this B, we call this little a, this is little b, this is little c. We dig out the appropriate formula.
We get these formulas on the formula sheet, right?
Yep. And we plug it in and we just push the numbers through the calculator. I'll get my calculator out. Make sure it's in degree mode. Yep, it is. Okay, second. Cos inverse. Bracket. Make sure you put the bracket down first, right? 20 squared plus 20 squared minus 30 squared. Bracket divided by bracket. 2 times 20 times 20. Bracket. Enter. 97.2 degrees. What do I get? 97.2 degrees.
Are we done?
No. We gotta do compass headings now. It goes on and on and on. Okay. So, some of the questions involve a compass heading. So which way is up top? North. What's down at the bottom? What's over here?
East.
Never eat shredded wheat. Never eat shredded wheat. Okay. Here's how compass headings work. When I say north 20 degrees west, the first letter is the direction that you're heading. So you start off pointing to the north, and then you move 20 degrees to the west, So this here is 20 degrees. Okay? You start off pointing south and then you move 50 degrees towards the east. So from south, I go 50 degrees to the east. From west, I start off pointing west and then I turn to an angle of 25 degrees towards the south. So if this starts with north, it has to end with east or west. You can't say north 20 degrees south. Is this, well, which way am I turning, right? Towards the south. You could turn either way. East, 10 degrees north. You face east, you go 10 degrees towards the north. Okay, that's how compass headings work. Let's do one question that involves these. You're going to see one on the, you're going to see one or two in the book, and you might see one on the test. Okay. So, Carly and Jonathan both leave the same position in the school field at the same time to go home. Okay. You made a choice, right? The choice is, yeah, anything involves compass headings, direction. I'm not going to get those questions. That's cool. Your choice. Carly leaves in the direction north 15 degrees west, and Jonathan leaves in the direction of south 40 degrees east. Carly walks at a pace of 1.5 meters per second, and Jonathan, who has to get home in a hurry, runs at a pace of 4 meters per second. After 1 minute, how far apart are Carly and Jonathan? There's a lot going on here, right? They're in different directions. We don't know what the angle between them is, and then we got to figure out how far they went in 1 minute. Okay, but it's doable. Okay, so here's the spot in the field. So let's lay down the north, south, east, west, right? So Carly leaves in a direction of north 15 degrees west. And Jonathan leaves direction of south 40 degrees towards the east. Now, Carly walks at a pace of 1.5 meters per second, and she goes for 1 minute, which is 60 seconds in 1 minute. And the seconds cross off, and 60 times 1.5 is 90 meters per minute. So in 1 minute, she has gone 90 meters. Now, Jonathan's running, so he's actually going to go a little bit further, so let's draw this out a bit longer. Jonathan's going at 4 meters per second for 1 minute, 60 seconds, 1 minute. So he's gone 240 meters per minute, so in 1 minute he's gone 240 meters. And we need to work out how far apart they are, and we need to figure out this angle, which is not as hard as it looks. So what is that angle? More than 90, yep. Less than 180, yep. So what is it? Okay, I know. I have a number in my mind. Guess the number. 860. Close, but no cigar. Okay, look. This angle here is 15 degrees, right? What's this angle here? 90 degrees. What's this angle here? That's 40, so what's this angle?
40. No, I meant 80, 30.
Yeah, I just gotta bang my head. That angle's 50 because these make up a 90, so this angle here. Okay. And now the problem is almost done, right? You're just using cosine law. Right, so you need to do cosine law homework, you need to do practice 1 to 7. Tell me on Monday, I'll hand you out a cube review. Give you a good week of review on the cube. And